Now let's put our bear into the flyer that we have. With everything open, let's go up to Select. Let's do All on the Active Artboard. This will get everything that we created. Next, let's go up to Edit, and then down to Copy. Then we can go up to File, and let's open up the Flyer AI file. When we say Open, we can go up to Edit, and let's paste it. And before we do anything else, let's go up to Object, and let's group our objects together. And for now, I'm just going to select him and kind of move him down here out of the way. We'll zoom into this artboard. Now let's image trace something. Choosing File down to Place will allow you to place any object that we have into our design. Let's choose our hand-drawn type JPEG, and we'll hit Place, and then one click and drag will place it up here at the very top. Now this image is made up completely of pixels. If we were to zoom in, you can see that it's a scan or a photograph. We want to quickly vectorize this. So with the image selected, in your Properties panel, let's open up the Image Trace options and choose 3 colors. This will automatically vectorize what we have, and when you zoom in, you can see how it's got those nice edges. But we want to be able to edit the vector image that we have. So to view the properties for this, with it still selected, go down to Image Trace and click on the Open Image Trace panel. This will give us full control over everything we can do for it. Now there's a lot of little things that you can play around with inside of this. But let's change the number of colors. Since we only have 2 to be down to 2, you can hit Return. If you opened up Advanced, you can play around with how much detail you want to be inside of the paths. So in our case, let's set the paths to be 100% and the corners to be 25%. Let's bring up the noise to be about 50%. Every time you do this, it'll go back and redraw the information from here. Notice doing that picks up on a lot more of the smaller details that we want to see. Finally, we want to tell it to ignore the yellow color on here because we only want to keep the black. When you choose Ignore Color, you can click on the little eyedropper and then click on the yellow to tell it to not recognize that color. Finally, and this is most important, in order to be able to edit this vector, with it still selected, choose Expand. Now that it's expanded, you can see the individual vector points that make up this logo. Now we can close out our image trace options. Now when we did this, notice that it picked up on a lot of little bumps and curves that you may not have wanted. If you ever want to smooth out your artwork, you can clean it up by going up to Object, down to Path, and tell it to Simplify. This will open up the Simplify slider. From here, you can play around with the options, making it more or less simple. You can also tell it to automatically simplify, and it'll pick up on what it thinks should be the most appropriate things. Or you can click on the little cogwheel and you can dial in more specific thresholds on how you want to simplify things. For us, we're going to keep it just a little bit more simple and everything looks good. Finally, let's zoom out. And we want the color of this to match the color of the outdoors text that's below it. To do this, let's pick up our eyedropper tool with our fill color selected and also with the Trek selected, click on the outdoors. Notice how it automatically fills in with that color. Now let's combine our designs into our little crest logo. So choosing Trek, let's place this right above outdoors, right there, looks good. Let's choose our little bear dude, click and drag him and put him in the center. The final thing the book is going to have us do is to use the text to vector graphics. This allows you to automatically create some vector graphics based on the description that you want to type in. In order to do this, let's grab our rectangle tool and draw a simple rectangle up here at the very top. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just need an area to work from. With it still selected, the book is going to have you go to the Window drop-down menu and look for Text to Vector Graphics. In recent updates, it's no longer here. Instead, go to Object and down to Generate Vectors. The settings are going to be exactly the same, although some things have changed around. First off, at the very top, let's type in our prompt to be a warm yellow sun. Make sure we're generating an icon graphic. You can play around with the amount of detail that you want. Under Reference Style, make sure to tell it not to match the artwork. So we're going to uncheck this. Otherwise, it's going to pick up on the colors and everything that you have here, and it may not be what you want. You can play around with different effects, but for now, I'm going to make sure my color and tones are also selected. We want it to be nice, warm tones. You can specify specific colors if you want, but I'm going to keep it by the default. Now when I click Generate, this will take just a few moments, but in our Properties panel, you can see it's going to create about 3 different variations. There. Once it's finished, we've got one variation up here, and if we don't like this one, we can click on another one and choose the other options. Now, at any time, if you don't like what you have, you can always return and type in a different prompt, or you can open up the settings and tell it to look for other things. Let's change our reference style to include our artwork this time. Now, when we click Generate, let's see what other options it's going to create for us. All right, now it created some options that seem to also match the colors and style that we have, but may not be exactly as warm as we wanted, but that's okay. With it done, we can now click and drag around and place it right where it needs to be. And if necessary, we can ungroup it and change the colors. But this is really all that we wanted for this particular design. Now that we're finished, let's go up to File and down to Save As. And let's rename this our Adventure Flyer. And make sure your name is on it. Hit Save. This Adventure Flyer will say OK to the options is what you're going to upload to the class page.